The chair recognizes the honourable member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy. Mr. Deputy, it is once again a privilege to stand in this honorable place to represent the good and the special people of the East Grand Bahama constituency. Mr. Deputy, these are significant.
Mr. Glock. All right.
Thank you very much. Mr. Deputy, these are significant and weighty issues that we debate here today. Unfortunately, with respect to these matters that we debate, the government, in my view, has treated the people and this parliament. They have not treated the people or this parliament with the respect that we all deserve. Lack of consultation, lack of transparency ultimately leads to a lack of trust. And Mr. Deputy, the PLP have lost the public's trust. I start, Mr. Deputy, with the lack of meaningful consultation. These bills first ought to have been debated separately. They involve two separate and important issues. It would appear that the government does not want a public discussion on either bill. If what you are doing is so good for the people, then why not fully explain it to the people?
Yes.
Why no town meetings? Why not put your awesome PR machinery to work? Mr. Deputy, I agree with the observations of the organization.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Fort Charlotte.
These bills were laid in January.
Stop my time, please.
In January, for the honourable member to, they're not caught by surprise. Adequate time was given to provide any written representation to the government. So I invite the member to please
Get on with the debate.
lack of consultation.
The substance of the debate.
Thank you, honourable member.
And let us decide our
Lack of
agenda.
consultation.
I agree with the observations of the organization.
Order, members.
I agree with the observations of the Organization for Responsible Governance, published in yesterday's paper. And I quote them: "Such a limited period restricts meaningful public consultation and stakeholder engagement on matters of significant importance."
Yes.
Mr. Deputy, they put it kindly. They say, and I quote them, "They represent a missed opportunity for meaningful engagement with both citizen and the private sector on a critical issue." Mr. Deputy, in my view, you have also treated the Grand Bahama Power Company with disrespect. You have not consulted the second largest power company in the country. You have set obligations on the power company and have not even bothered to inquire whether they are able or even equipped to fulfill those obligations. Mr. Deputy, if you are doing something that is so good, then why are you avoiding the opinions of the Bahamian public? What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid of the views of the Bahamian public? Mr. Deputy, this government unfortunately has a habit of not caring what the Bahamian public thinks or feels. If they did, then they would have, if they did, they would have made sure that these bills were fully explained to the public. Did you consult with the renewable energy sector on the terms of the bill in this area? Did you consult with the GBPC, the Grand Bahama Power Company, on whether they can fulfill these obligations? Mr. Deputy, why are we also debating two comprehensive bills in one debate? Mr. Deputy, these are the two bills. This the electricity bill,
Encyclopedias.
which is 80 pages,
90.
and then the natural gas bill.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Anne's.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, the honourable member for Fort Charlotte has stood in this House and misled Parliament. He has attempted to advise Mr. Deputy Speaker that these bills have been with the opposition since January. The agenda, Mr. Deputy Speaker, makes a record of when these bills were tabled, and they were tabled on the 24th of April of 2024. Now you have other members of the government side, Mr. Deputy Speaker, who are continuing to falsify this, promote this false narrative, and they need to understand that this is an honorable House, and when they stand on their feet to make a point of order, they cannot mislead Parliament, they cannot mislead the press. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we all want to give a valuable contribution to the debate today, but it's not prudent when members from the government side or a member from the government side stands up and willfully misleads the House.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Fort Charlotte.
Mr. Deputy, I take the correction, but no, I'm advised that once these bills were laid, no written representations.
Please, no.
No. Could I speak? Could I speak for myself? Could I speak for myself?
I think you should.
But okay, please. I do apologize. Now, Mr. Deputy, representations, concerns could have been made, and even now could have been submitted to the government.
That's right.
In fact, Mr. Deputy, on occasions, bills were laid, and I took it as a citizen and wrote concerns that I had, because all of us as citizens have a duty,
A responsibility.
to assist, to assist with legislation for the peace, order, and good government of the Bahamas. Now, the Honourable Minister, in her wrap-up, would indicate what written representations were made to assist the government.
None.
Concerns were raised. The Honourable Minister indicated a responsiveness that there will be an amendment, and that is what a responsible government does.
That's right.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for East Grand Bahama.
I just want to make sure that my time is reflected. I think it was 5 minutes.
No, you all were corrected by our member. Corrected. Say thanks. That's what you say thanks.
Mr. Deputy, I want to thank the member for St. Anne's for his, I think it's 5 minutes. You put me at 6.
We need every minute.
I got to keep every minute.
Every second.
I got to keep every minute. But Mr. Deputy, I want to thank the member for St. Anne's, because I accepted 100% what the member for St. Anne's said, because I got these bills last week. And so the public got these bills last week. And so my point about consultation was absolutely 100% on point.
Yes. Yes.
So Mr. Deputy, why are we debating? And I make the point. In 1 week, why are we debating an 80-page bill, and we are also debating another 85-page bill in one debate? And these are two weighty issues. One of them, you are introducing regulation on a concept that it is for the first time being introduced in the Bahamas. So, Mr. Deputy, the electricity bill, as I said, is 80 pages. The natural gas bill is 85 pages. And the public is expected to digest both bills in 1 week. It is absolutely ridiculous to expect a meaningful feedback. The only conclusion is you don't want it. The government themselves could not fully, in the 1 hour and a half an hour, could not fully articulate themselves what is in the bill, what is in the bills. The natural gas bill, Mr. Deputy, is a new concept for the Bahamas. It has the potential to make a great deal of money. So what are the government's plans with respect to the natural gas industry? Who will ultimately benefit? Will this be another secret deal? The benefit should go to the Bahamian people. And why is this would be a wonderful concept to introduce for a sovereign wealth fund, which, as I mentioned, sovereign wealth fund or investment fund is nowhere mentioned in the natural gas bill. There's no mention whatsoever for a sovereign wealth fund or an investment fund mentioned, and this would be an ideal situation, an ideal circumstance that you can use the funds that could be obtained as a result of the natural gas industry and put them into a sovereign wealth fund. Mr. Deputy, why are these bills so rushed? Is there something in these bills that the government does not want the public to discuss? Secondly, the government is attempting to change the law on regulating electricity and introduce a new regulating natural gas without first telling the public what is their plan, what is their strategy. The public is left to guess what the government has in store. Yes, your objective is to reduce electricity. That's everybody's objective. Yes, your objective is to put in place more reliable energy. Yes, your objective is to make clean energy. But how? What is your plan? What is your strategy to make those objectives a reality? We cannot support the changes to the law without knowing what your plan is. Or, more importantly, who are the players? We will not blindly follow this government down a black hole. And I say that again, we will not blindly follow the government down a black hole. Mr. Deputy, under Section 29, you have changed the terms to allow for a licensee to enter management contracts. This was previously allowed for BPL. most terms you have changed from BPL to a licensee. So who is this proposed licensee? And who will they potentially be granting these management contracts to? What are their plans, Mr. Deputy? Who will own these companies, Mr. Deputy? Who will benefit from the ownership of these companies, Mr. Deputy? Clearly state what was or is the open competitive bidding process. These management contracts could be split into three. The bill grants the government added flexibility to take us into a new direction. But you have still failed to say where you are taking us. And again, that's the essence of the point, Mr. Deputy, is you are putting in place rules that anticipates your plan, but you have not articulated what your plan is to the public. It is, again, a disrespectful way that you have treated the Parliament and a disrespectful way that you have treated the people of the Bahamas. Mr. Deputy, Section 38(4) seems to be a new clause with respect to fuel costs. IRCA shall establish guidelines, but what are those potential guidelines on fuel costs? Fuel costs, it costs what it costs. The fuel is what it costs, unless you are hedging. But what are these guidelines that you are saying IRCA is supposed to be proposing? It is highly relevant to the public to understand what will happen with respect to fuel costs. Mr. Deputy, that was the entire issue recently with respect to fuel costs and who was paying for those fuel costs. And the $100 million that was loaned on to BPL was illegally loaned to BPL for fuel costs. But, Mr. Deputy, the government must have a plan on how it intends to deal with fuel costs. Well, what is that plan? It is a significant piece of the puzzle, Mr. Deputy. Section 38. This is the much talked about clause, the one that the minister said is supposed to come with some amendment. The 2015 Act, Section 20. This is what the 2015 Act says. Without prejudice to Section 5, IRCA shall have a period of 5 years to adopt and apply the tariff rate for electricity supply services by BPL contained in the initial management contract with the system operator, inclusive of the principles and methodologies of calculation, determination, and variation. In other words, IRCA shall accept what the original agreement was, which was agreed between BPL and the systems operator. This is the new clause. You've changed it to say, without prejudice to subsection 1 and 7, meaning this clause is subject, 1 and 7 is subject to this clause. IRCA shall, for a period of 3 years, from the date of the commencement of this act, adopt and apply the tariff rate for any public electricity supplier or authorized public electricity supplier. Not BPL, but any electricity supplier. That could be a new one or some existing one. We do not know who that is, or we do not know who is coming. First of all, you have made the clause 1 through 7 subject to that clause. Secondly, you are removing IRCA from approving the rates for 3 years. In the previous act,
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Elizabeth.
that the intention and the intent of the act and the section, the clause 38.8, which is referred to, was for IRCA to be able to accept for a period, a transitional period, the tariff rates that presently exist, right? And if by chance within 12 months, before that 3-year transitional period is up, there is a change or request for tariff rates to be changed, there is a requirement for an application and a rate case to be presented to IRCA for their review and approval. I also advise that during the committee stage of today, we will clarify that language further so that it is equivocally clear that that will be the case when they have an update of their tariff rates, which is coming. I did not say it will stay, and I did not say anyone could come and create any type of tariff rate and do as they please for 3 years. IRCA is still the regulator. All right? So I said the amendment will come in committee stage. Okay, we'll stop running. I speaking to Kwasi. I speaking to the member that raised it. I ain't speaking to the outgoing leader. I speaking to the member that raised it. Outgoing leader, talk to your convention.
In other words, thank the
Mr.
minister.
Deputy,
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Mr. Deputy, in the previous act, IRCA could not change what was already agreed. IRCA could not change what was already agreed. This bill, we do not know what the rate will be.
Correct.
Now,
Deputy Speaker,
The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for
Mr. Deputy,
Elizabeth.
I have to get up and correct this point.
until we see that
we
amendment,
are under tariff rates now that were not changed
I understand, Honorable Member.
since
She has the floor.
2010. We are under tariff rates that existed since 2010. I said that in my contribution. Those tariff rates will be adopted. So they exist. You're under that system now. It exists. It ain't no surprise to you. Everyone can see what the tariff rates are because they've been here from 2010. There's a tariff review going on. If by chance we get completed with that tariff review before 3 years, I will ensure the amendment to come at committee stage clarifies that there is still a requirement to submit a rate case to IRCA for approval by IRCA. So the committee stage, we will clarify the language so it's clear that the tariff rate that exists now is what we are under. So when there is a change, if it happens prior to the 3 years coming up, they will have to submit a tariff rate case to IRCA for their review and approval. Repeating over and over that you don't know what it is ain't gonna change the fact that you are paying on a tariff rate that was been in place since 2010. So clearly, you know what it is. It's the same tariff rate.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Freetown.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I realize that East Grand Bahama said it's 85 pages. But if he would turn over to from page 37 to page 40, he would see that IRCA has control over any person that has a substantial degree of power in the electricity market.
What page?
40. 3 pages. 41, sorry. Reads, a person that has a substantial degree of power in an electricity market in the Bahamas shall not take advantage of such power for the purpose of D, engaging in any conduct which are or may be detrimental to the interests of consumers of electricity. So if he thinks that IRCA has no power, Section 41 is not excluded by Section 38 as in the previous act. And setting exorbitant rates, if you have a substantial degree of power, would be engaging in a course of conduct detrimental to the interest of consumers. I know it's 3 pages on in an 85-page bill, but as legislators, we really should get used to not only reading the 170 pages, but also reading to see where we benchmark these bills from, because we don't recreate the wheel.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Mr. Deputy, you know, all of this debate really emphasize the point that I was making. That if we in this place are having this back and forward, how do we expect the public to be able to digest these 160 pages in 1 week? That's the point, Mr. Deputy. And if all the member for Elizabeth had to do was, if this was then produce the amendment. I accept what you're saying, that you intend to amend it. I accept that. But tell us just show me the amendment. Let me read it. Let me read it.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, East Grand Bahama says that the public couldn't digest these. The public not only digested them, they made some noise. It came to our attention, so much so that we're addressing it. So far from making the point that he wishes it to make, the issues that were raised in the press and otherwise demonstrate that certainly people other than the other side were able to digest these bills.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Anne's.
Mr. Speaker, we're hearing that the public is the one that is making the comments and corrections that has resulted in Elizabeth indicating today that there'll be amendment at the committee stage. But the act relies heavily on IRCA. And before this amendment came as a result of the outcry from the public and from the opposition, you have a news article from 5 days ago, Regulation and Competition Authority, IRCA, Corporate and Consumer Relations Manager Juan McCartney said yesterday a new bill that would allow Bahamas Power and Light to set its own tariffs would help the right sizing of the utility company, which he noted is near a state of collapse. So the regulatory body that is meant to be overseeing these entities, Mr. Deputy Speaker, did not pick up on the point that the public picked up on and that the government is now seeking at the last moment to react to. Imagine what would really be found out if, as Marco City has said, there was full disclosure of not only the plan, but of the act for proper consultation. In a matter of a week, the public has stepped up, the opposition has stepped up while IRCA was in agreement. And now the government is saying that we were wrong, we are going to amend it at committee stage. More time is needed on this, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
I don't know how St. Anne's is divining that. The bill and the member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and St. Salvador was clear. BPL has problems because of distribution, generation, and debt. And so when IRCA says that this actually helps this body, is not related to anything in rates that Mr. McCartney said. And so although he may be divining it and seeking to prophesy, the words are clear, they align with what the Prime Minister says. The point remains that everyone who had an interest in this seems to have read it, seems to have come up with ideas. The people of East Grand Bahama are represented in this place. And the representative for East Grand Bahama has a duty to read these bills and represent the 5,000 or 10,000 people who live in his constituency. We speak for the people who send us here. So speak up for East Grand Bahamas, please.
Thank you, honourable member.
Mr. Deputy, East Grand Bahama has read them. East Grand Bahama has read all 160 pages of them. And East Grand Bahama is representing the views of those constituents here today, right now. We're doing it. So then, Mr. Deputy, then you've given the minister an all-out power and discretion for 3 years to, by order, adjust the tariff rate based on the need for a tariff rate relief for a category of persons stated in the order. This is what some would say is an outright attempt to adjust rates for election purposes. Yeah. Come on. Mr. Deputy, previously, it was one rate Bahamas, which means the entire Bahamas, with the exception of Grand Bahama, had one rate. That was fair. All Bahamians should get the same low rate. If the government wishes to grant relief, it can do so through social services or create some other form of relief. What are your plans for this section? Why should we agree to this power when we do not know who and how it will be used? What is the criteria upon which a minister will use when he will be granting relief under this section?
He or she in this case.
Who will get the relief? What will the relief be? Will rates be increased on some and decreased on others? What will the relief be? Mr. Deputy, I move on. I would say, how will the government pay for the legacy debt? If we pay 12 cents now on the tariff, what will it be next year? What will it be in the next 5 years? Is it planned that this relief will apply to Grand Bahama? There must have been some modeling. Just allow me to complete 1 second. There must have been some modeling submitted with detailed studies on if you have this plan, this is what we intend, or this is how we intend to reduce the rates. You again have not articulated. All you've said is you intend to reduce them. You have not said how you intend to reduce them or what you intend to reduce them to. You need to be transparent and tell the Bahamian people. Also, Mr. Deputy, Section 75, regulation. You have completely disregarded the Grand Bahama Power Company in this section. So the minister, when it comes to regulations, should hear from BPL, and they should hear from IRCA. They should hear from BPL, and they should hear from IRCA. BPL is a power company, and they should hear from IRCA, the regulator. But the second largest power company, you have deliberately left them out of this section. And that is when you are putting in place regulations, just to hear from the power company. Simple, just to hear and consult them. You don't have to agree with them, but just give them the opportunity to be able to say, this is what we think. Mr. Deputy, after your 215 Electricity Act,
Order, members.
after the 215, and this is the point that the member for Cat Island made, you attempted to remove the Grand Bahama Power Company as regulator in the port area. The Grand Bahama Power Company then filed a court action. This is still the subject of a court action. We understand what your view is. In fact, you may be surprised that there may be some of us that also agree with that view. But you have made a deliberate attempt to remove the Grand Bahama Power Company's ability to grant licenses. This is again contrary to the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. The only thing that you have done is to create more confusion to an already difficult situation. But you have removed the power company as licensing authority and replaced them with the power company. You have removed GBPA as licensing authority and replaced them with the power company. But you didn't speak to any of them prior to doing this. Natural gas bill, Mr. Deputy. Under Section 9. Under Section 9. Get up and say you spoke to them. Get up and say you consulted them. Get up and say you consulted them. Mr. Deputy. Section 9 of the natural gas bill. Section 9 of the natural gas bill has a duty to consult in Section 9 of the natural gas bill, as well as in the electricity bill. A duty to consult, and this is IRCA. IRCA knows how to consult. They have a process. In fact, IRCA's concept of consultation is an excellent concept. They have, this process is already in place. All the government needed to do, if they wanted to hear from the people, was to present these two bills to IRCA and ask IRCA to put it through their already established consultation process. They already have a process to consult. All you had to do was put these bills through that process and let IRCA do the consultation. Mr. Deputy,
Relax, please.
we again do not know your plans for bunkering LNG. This has the potential of being very lucrative in the Bahamas. It has the potential to be very lucrative in the Bahamas. And I first of all want to commend a Grand Bahamian, Ellie Hepburn, for his deal to bunker LNG. He is a smart, innovative, young Bahamian who is doing great things. So we need even more Bahamians to benefit. But tell us, what is your plan for this industry, Mr. Deputy? What is your plan for this industry? This should be part also, as I said, of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Mr. Deputy, where is, again, important questions. Where are there proposed sites for LNG, for this LNG facility? Is IRCA ready to be the regulator? Do they have all of the expertise? Do they have all of the necessary resources that are needed in order to regulate this industry? And Mr. Deputy, there is a whole lot more that I could be saying, and I should be saying, with respect to the natural gas bill and with respect to the electricity bill, but unfortunately time does not permit. But two things I wanted to mention, Mr. Deputy, was I wanted to ask the question, because in my constituency, the Urban Renewal Center, in my constituency, I understand that the staff has been on half-day for a period of time. And there's also rumors that the power was off for at least a week. So we need to understand, is that true? And why is it that the urban renewal in East Grand Bahama...
Order, members, order.
We also need to understand, why is it that urban renewal in East Grand Bahama and possibly other urban renewal centers in Grand Bahama, why was their power off? And why also, Mr. Deputy, and I just want to conclude with this, if I can have just 2 minutes to conclude with this. Mr. Deputy, the East Grand Bahama Ministry of Finance, when we left office, left in place a East Grand Bahama microgrid project.
Yes, sir.
As I understand, this project thankfully is continuing.
Yes.
And there is a town meeting that should come, I believe, not this week, but it should come next week on the 9th.
Yeah, Thursday.
And so, Mr. Deputy, I wanted to thank. Well, let me first say, Mr. Deputy, that I intend on being to this town meeting and seeing how this microgrid project is going to continue. So, Mr. Deputy, it is something that was started under our administration. It is something that I have asked the government to update us. On many occasions, I've been speaking and asking the government to update us on what's happening with respect to this microgrid. So we will now hear and be able to hear and understand what's happening with respect to this microgrid. But unfortunately, Mr. Deputy, because of the lack of consultation and because of all of the issues that I have raised and the issues that all of the members will be raising, we on this side cannot support either of these bills.
Thank you, honorable member.